Canadians choose their representatives via the ballot box. Indigenous people here have, over their long history, used various means of selecting those who govern. Shelby Lisk is the new head of our Ontario Hub that covers Indigenous issues, and she joins us now via Skype from Ottawa for a look at that. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
So this is the first time our viewers are meeting you. Can you please share with us about a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to introduce myself first in my language because that's the way that we do things so that our ancestors can hear us and know what we're saying. So Ganyangehaga niwagun dioda danam waganyato gundege nito nanu aguatsere Ganyangeha gadeweonsta. So what I said is that I'm Mohawk from Tyendinaga and I'm Turtle Clan. And that I'm studying the Mohawk language. So forgive me if I said something incorrect.
Well, welcome to the show. Now, your first piece looked at the Haudenosaunee system of leadership. What is the Haudenosaunee Confederacy?
So the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, you may have also heard it called the Iroquois Confederacy or the League of Five Nations. And it was created by a man that the nations called the Peacemaker. And he came to them. They were in a period of warring between the nations, and so he brought them together to stop warring and to create a confederacy. So the five nations are the Seneca, the Onondaga, the Oneida, the Cayuga, and the Mohawk. And then in the 1700s, the Tuscarora joined as well. So you may have also heard it called the Six Nations, and that's why, because the sixth joined.
Now, the way that they choose chiefs is very different than how Canadians elect their prime minister. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there's 50 chiefs across the Confederacy, and within each nation there are clans, and within those clans there are women who are the leaders of those clans. They're called the clan mothers, and those clan mothers would get together and they would decide who they thought would be a good candidate to be their chief. They would bring that candidate's name to the men in their clan and see if they approve, and then they would bring that to their nation to see if the nation also approves. And then if they all give it the okay, they bring it to Confederacy for the chief to be condoled. And if at any point during this process somebody voices a concern as to why they don't think that person would make a good leader, then the clan mothers will reevaluate that and they'll go back and they'll find a new candidate. So the most important thing is that everyone's voice is heard throughout the entire process.
Now, when we're looking at a leader, there are certain qualities that we're looking for. That's the same in the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, but there are specific qualities. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I spoke with David Newhouse, who is the chair of Indigenous Studies at Trent University. He's also Onondaga from the Six Nations of the Grand River community. And he spoke with me about the Great Law of Peace, which basically the peacemaker created to explain how the Confederacy should run itself. And within that, there are certain criteria to become a chief. And so some of those things include honesty, humility, kindness in your heart, and to be able to deliberate about hard topics in a calm way. And so David will often explain to his students that these are the criteria, and then he will ask the university students, if we were to put our current leaders, say in Canada or in the US, up against these traits, would they have been chosen as our leaders? And most often the students say no.
Now, talking about comparing the Canadian election and the government there versus the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, a lot has changed over the years as well with the Haudenosaunee Confederacy in terms of how they elect their chiefs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the traditional system does still exist today, but with the Indian Act came stipulations from Canada that the communities would elect a chief, and that one chief would be elected by the men in the community, and they also put forth stipulations for how many council members they would have additionally to that. And so when I talked to David Newhouse, he described that in his community in Six Nations, and he knows from the history that in 1924, they were very resistant to having the elected band council system, but Canada actually brought in the RCMP. They locked their council house doors and they forced an election. And so they were not able to stop the traditional chief system from existing. It still exists, but they wouldn't do work with them and they wouldn't see them as a legitimate government.
Some very interesting stuff. Thank you so much, Shelby. Pleasure to have you on the show. Now, you can read Shelby's article at tvo.org, as well as a version translated into Mohawk. This is something we intend to do as often as possible moving forward. Always a pleasure. Thanks again, Shelby.
Yawa, thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.